libertarian.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get my political acumen up because so, I don't really know about the libertarians.
It's prioritize individualism and freedom. Remember, you asked me one time, what do I value more, freedom or happiness? And I told you freedom because you can be free to be unhappy.
I do remember that. Yeah, and that's a good point that you made because happiness that is coerced or forced can't be considered true happiness. I guess you know.
Right, and I mean that also made me think of to the book I was trying to get you to read, Brave New World, where they basically induce happiness into themselves by taking soma, you know. And soma is just this drug that just makes you happy, though. You know, even if they're depressed, they'll go have sex and take soma. That's supposed to make them happy, and all the external happiness in the world, I don't think can truly make you happy. That's for sure.
Yeah. You more or less just become a slave in a sense.
Yeah, I don't know
But
about a slave. I mean, you just
well, I was talking about in terms of like Brave New World, you know, just taking drugs. You become a slave to the drugs, and you don't really have free. You know, you're just chasing the high.
I mean, it's not even so much about chasing the high as it is just like getting high. They just getting to that destination. They just want to be high and be
I
happy
see.
because they're depressed. At their core, they're suffering. They're people that are suffering. It's an awful situation to live under, in my opinion. I mean, I sent you some passages from the book, and it was,
Yeah, it was crazy.
yeah,
It was
you're
crazy.
like, I'm disgusted.
Yo, man. Also, never mind. I won't segue into that because it's too soon.
No, no, go ahead, man. No holds
I just
barred.
want to. You know what I'm gonna talk. You know what I'm gonna
Anything?
say. I gotta bring up. I gotta bring up the South African. I gotta bring up the Germans and Namibia. I
Oh
gotta
yeah,
bring up
yeah, I
everybody.
got you. If I was gonna say, if anything, just look at this as like a time capsule. In like 5 years, you'll be looking back at your thoughts, and you can like really see where you were mentally, and really like spar with yourself mentally from the past, and
That's
see
true. That's good to do.
how you've changed. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get into South Africa. I know you have a pretty negative opinion of South Africa,
I
although not the
look.
government, but mainly the Boers.
I the Boris. Yes. I don't like my. I'm not. I'm not like the type of person that would advocate for just total destruction and all that. But I have to say, the Boers, in my opinion, they should not be allowed to stay in South Africa. And that's an argument that Europeans always bring to the table when they colonize new territories. Is we modernized it, we made it better, therefore we have a right to it. But they're imposing their own set of relative standards onto a mass that doesn't necessarily agree with them. For instance, the Native
I
Americans.
wish I knew a Boer so I could have him come in and you guys could just go at it.
Yeah, I would like to meet one, and I would not like I would let him say his piece,
Oh
but
yeah, most
I
definitely. But you
just
gotta
feel
be
I
respectful. You gotta be respectful, cause it'd be my
yeah
guest. So I need you to be respectful. But
yeah I do respect.
I just want to hear you two go at it, and it's like just hear your thoughts, hear what he thinks, hear what you think, and just like
Yeah,
boom. But yeah, you you say they don't have a right to be there, but do Australians not have a right to be in Australia now because of their ancestors having been shipped away as like prisoners?
honestly, no, because for that on that same virtue, like they were shipped away, some against their will, and you know it was treated like a prison colony in a sense, and and, and since that's the case, I mean, I'd say their descendants have a right to go back home if they so desire. But in the same instance, is that
But are they
they,
really welcomed? Are they really welcome to go back to England? What do you
I
think?
mean,
Like, I don't think, like, barring the whole resources fact, just if we're looking at it culturally, do you really see like an English person really wanting to bring 25 million Australians into England?
I mean, honestly, sorry, my phone's going off.
And it's like, yeah, maybe they can communicate, maybe they do have a similar, like
Sorry about that.
maybe they can communicate, maybe they do have like a similar history. But do you really think that the Australians would a want to be there again, and b that the English people would even want them there?
Okay, speaking to that, I don't think necessarily uh, Australians would want to go back because they look at it as, oh, this is ours, Australia is ours, you know. And as far as the British are concerned, I don't necessarily think there would be an issue because I think bigger than culture, the thing is that Europeans tend to look at skin color a lot too. Right? So they see somebody who's white and they say, okay, more or less, this is okay. Though you could make the argument and say, oh, what about Eastern European? What about Slavs and stuff like that? Well, I would say they would accept the
There's actually a
Slav.
lot of Slavs, a lot of Polish people in England actually, and I know that
Oh, okay,
they're not very well liked, at least not as far as
that's
I know.
true. But in terms of comparatively, who do you think Britain would take first? A person of Slavic descent or a black?
I think honestly, I think that they would look at their background first and see who's more productive. If the black person is more productive, the black person. If the Slav is more productive, the Slav.
So
But
so you think
so hence
they're
like
going to
who
look at the
doesn't want to,
merit?
if whether they're coming there just to go on welfare, whether they're coming there, just absorb resources rather than give back to the system and help build a better country. I think that's what they
Okay.
think about. I think they think about it civically when it comes to immigration, but at the same time, I do know there is an in-group preference. There is a preference that white people have towards seeing other white people, and I think
Yeah,
the same goes for black people. I think that there's definitely like an in-group preference for black people. Black people like to be around black people. I mean, if it wasn't like that, why would we self-segregate our cities? You know?
I mean that's true, but I think also it's true, but the effects are somewhat different because in a society that is run by white people, the benefit will always be for white people. You can have a group of black people isolate themselves, but since black people, the majority of black people, don't hold a large chunk of wealth or capital, even though they congregate around each other, it's not necessarily as beneficial as saying an all
But
European
all right,
congregation.
but look at how productive black neighborhoods are. Like how many black-owned businesses are in black neighborhoods?
I mean, that's true, but then we're also getting if you say that we're also getting into the history of we also have to talk about why they're like that too, because black people didn't just
Right.
go, you know what, I don't want to sell to my own people anymore. Let's just close. Like there's certain things that destroyed that, and I
But
think it's important,
barring
huh?
barring the history, why not move forward better in now? The
Because
best
I
time to
think
plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now.
I think it's important to be aware of the history so you know how to guard against it in the future. You know,
Oh, most
the
definitely,
history.
most definitely.
Yeah, I don't think we should dwell and just say, "Oh, look what you did here." I mean, I agree with you in that sense that we shouldn't just be like, "I agree." I mean, I don't think we should just be like, "Yeah, man, I can't stand it, this and that," and just
Yeah,
only focus on that. We have to move forward
there's no point in sitting there stomping your feet, going, fuck Whitey, fucking Whitey keeps me down, fuck White. Like, there's no point in just constantly doing that and complaining about white people. All right, you got knocked down by white people. Get back up. Like, let's try to build something. Let's try to create. This isn't a one-player game. This is you're better with numbers. Numbers give you an advantage.
That's very true. Um, and I think but we should do vetting, and I'm gonna say it. I think we need to be very careful around white people, just like we have to be careful about anyone else. But um, the history is important because they can try it again. And coming to the point where we were talking about the Australians. Oh, you said they would look at merit first, but it's in the same instance where African computer scientists were trying to come to America so they could attend an AI convention, and Americans turns them down. Africans get turned down for visas, student visas to study in England. There is some bias going on at a fundamental level, and it's my belief that if you take, so you say if there's a difference of skill, but let's ask you this: what about a Slav with the equal qualifications of an African? Who do you think they're going to pick first?
In what country?
Uh, Britain.
Britain.
Yeah.
Um, m- Most likely the Slav, unless the African comes from an English-speaking African country.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. And my point in saying that is, at least at some fundamental level, Europeans will accept other Europeans first. And so I think that the Australians won't face the same amount of discrimination that other races do in Britain. Though I would say that Britain's racism is different from America, but also in the same way. Basically,
True,
I
I can't speak on Britain very much. I'm not from there,
yeah,
as you could see.
okay,
You could tell
me
by the
neither.
sound of
Yeah,
my beautiful voice.
yeah. Yeah, I have some UK friends, some friends from the UK, and they tell me that like they look at our racism, the black people went here, and they look at theirs, and they say, what, it's different, but it was still very visible. And I
Definitely.
was like, all right,
I have
but
some friends from Ireland actually say the same thing.
yeah. So yeah, I feel like what right did they have to settle there? I mean, just be honest about it. If it's uh, the law of might, then say it. If it's just because you were stronger, therefore you deserve it, okay. But when another force comes and World War III happens and they need black people to fight, and there's a force that's threatening their democracy, black people have a choice if we should be able to use our same logic, the might of right. You wanted to sit up there and challenge the world. Now you have to deal with the consequences. If it really is the survival of the fittest, and you want to roll with it, and that's what you really feel, then say it. And when something happens that threatens your safety, don't expect people to want to feel compelled because it's the might of right, right?
I do believe that if World War III were to happen, a lot of black people would be fighting. I think that they'd successfully brainwash the country
Yeah,
into thinking that it is a just war and going to war
I agree.
because they've done it before, and I don't think it'd be very hard for them to do it again, judging from the riots that are going on right now and fucking Antifa running batshit crazy.
Yeah, that's true. And I do also think there would be like a rising dissent among black people too, because kind of like how black people after World War II was like, we fought for democracy in a foreign land, and we come back home and they treat the German POWs worse than Americans who fought for America, and it's like, well, okay, you want our help when it's convenient for you, but when everything is fine and dandy, you want to go out and say, oh, rule of law, this and that, know your place, yada, yada, yada. And I just don't know why
The only
that people
example
from a,
I know of that is black folk trying to leave cities to go into like Levittown and shit and not being allowed. I mean, like, nah, Negro, you can't come here.
you know,